The snake you never see is the one that strikes most surely. Men are always preparing against visible enemies. They sharpen their swords, they guard their doors, they whisper about rivals they can name, but ruin is most often born from a hand they never suspected, a smile they believed was sincere, a word they thought was loyal. You must understand this truth. Men are deceived more by appearances than by reality. They look at what glitters, they trust what flatters, and they ignore the silence of the one who waits. It is not the wolf in the open field who destroys the shepherd, but the wolf disguised as the shepherd's companion, walking beside him each day. The snake you never see is not hidden by darkness, but by familiarity. The closer it lies, the less you imagine its bite. Thus, the wise must distrust what feels safest, for therein lies the danger most fatal. Man's nature is weak, driven by selfish desires and the endless need to be comforted by illusions. He would rather believe in loyalty than examine it. He would rather hear words of devotion than question their cost. And so betrayal always flourishes, because trust is the easiest mask to wear and the deadliest to remove. Remember this, men are not ruined by their enemies, they are ruined by their allies. A stranger may cut your purse, but it is the hand of your friend that reaches into your chest. The more someone insists upon their devotion, the more you must calculate what they hope to gain by it. He who kneels too deeply prepares to strike from below. The courtiers who praise most loudly are the first to defect, and the confidant who swears to carry your secrets is often the one who sells them for the highest price. To see the snake, you must first strip away the comfort of believing you are safe. Consider this carefully. Fear is reliable, love is not. A man who loves you today may hate you tomorrow, if it serves his appetite. But a man who fears you will obey even when he curses you in silence. This is why rulers who choose love over fear are destroyed. The people's affection is like the wind. It shifts with gossip, with envy, with hunger. But fear binds the will, it paralyzes the hand, it silences the tongue. To spot the snake you cannot see, you must ask yourself, who among those closest to me depends upon my fear? Who among them depends upon my favor? Those who live from your generosity alone will betray you the moment it runs dry. Those who live under your shadow of terror will crawl before they dare to strike. Therefore, the clever prince prefers to inspire fear laced with respect, never hatred, for hatred breeds conspiracies, but fear secures obedience. If you rely on affection alone, you will never see the snake until it is already in your veins. Men are quick to forget the death of a father, but they will never forget the loss of property. Nothing reveals the hidden snake faster than wealth, for greed is the oldest venom. Watch how a man reacts to gold. There you will see the measure of his loyalty. He may weep at your suffering, but he will never forgive you if you touch his inheritance. For this reason, a ruler must not seize the possessions of his subjects unless necessity demands it. For he who robs his people of wealth invites hatred, and hatred sharpens daggers in the night. Better to shed blood than to shed inheritance. For death is mourned for a season, but dispossession is resented for eternity. And yet, if you must enrich yourself at the expense of others, never let them see your hand. Use ministers, taxes, subtle inflation, the shifting of debts, extract without appearing to take. For the snake that steals openly is trampled, but the one that slithers unseen feeds forever. Understand that the art of ruling is the art of disguise. The prince must be both lion and fox, strong enough to frighten wolves, cunning enough to recognize traps. If he is only lion, he is caught by snares. If only fox, he is devoured by force. The hidden snake is often disguised as the loyal fox, one who flatters, advises, and whispers strategies in your ear. You must ask yourself, is his counsel serving my throne, or building his own? The most dangerous traitor is not the one who opposes you in public, but the one who makes himself indispensable in private. He gains your confidence, he solves your problems, he removes your enemies, and in doing so, he becomes the master, while you remain the puppet. To prevent this, you must keep men divided. Never let one minister grow too powerful, and always ensure that those who serve you need you more than you need them. The prince who trusts too deeply becomes the tool of his own servant. Flattery is poison, sweetened with honey. Men fall prey to it because it nourishes their vanity, yet nothing blinds a ruler more quickly. The snake you never see is the one who feeds your ego until you forget reality. He tells you what you wish to hear, that you are loved, admired, invincible. He urges you toward decisions that enrich him and weaken you, all while convincing you it was your wisdom that commanded them. This is why wise rulers surround themselves not with flatterers, but with those permitted to speak the truth, but only when asked. The prince must reserve judgment to himself, for to give others the freedom to advise uninvited is to invite manipulation. Listen when you will, silence them when you must, and always remember that words are weapons sharper than swords. The man who constantly praises you is sharpening his blade behind your back. Mark this law: never do what others can do for you, and then destroy them after. Use others to commit cruelties, then sacrifice them to appear merciful. Let them bear the hatred while you gather the gratitude. In this way, the snake reveals itself. When men perform cruelty in your name, they believe themselves indispensable. Once their usefulness ends, you must cut them off cleanly and publicly, for if they live, they will rise against you armed with resentment and knowledge of your sins. The people will praise you for purging tyranny, not realizing that you yourself directed it. Thus you appear just while remaining ruthless. This is the essence of power: to act immorally when needed, but always appear virtuous; to kill in the shadows, yet be seen in the light as merciful. The prince must master appearances, for reality is too harsh for the people's eyes. They want a father, a savior, a symbol, and so you must give them that mask, even if beneath it you are a serpent yourself. In the end, the only true protection is vigilance. The snake you never see is the one you refuse to imagine. Suspicion must be constant. Trust must be rationed. Appearances must be doubted, for men are not angels. They are creatures of hunger, envy, and fear. They worship strength. They betray weakness. They smile while they scheme. The ruler who survives is not the one who believes in loyalty, but the one who prepares for treachery. The ruler who endures is not the one who is loved, but the one who makes betrayal cost more than obedience. Power is not preserved by hope, but by calculation. The prince must learn how not to be good, for goodness invites the serpent, while ruthlessness treads upon its head. So I tell you again, the snake you never see is the one that kills you. Look closely, distrust boldly, and never forget that the deadliest venom is always hidden behind the sweetest words. And so we return to the question every ruler must ask in silence: who benefits most if I fall? To identify the snake, one must first follow the trail of profit. Men do not betray for nothing. They betray for advantage, for security, for power disguised as necessity. The man who loses nothing when you are ruined is the one most likely to hasten your ruin. He will clothe his ambition in the garment of duty, in words of friendship, in vows of service, yet his eyes will always linger on what remains yours to lose. A man may praise you endlessly, but if his fortune swells when your power diminishes, his loyalty is a fiction. The prince who understands this weighs every relationship like gold upon a scale, asking not who speaks the loudest in devotion, but who profits most in his absence. In that question lies the serpent's shadow. The snake you never see often hides beneath necessity. Ministers, generals, bankers, priests, they all make themselves indispensable, for men believe that by making the ruler dependent, they bind him in chains. And many princes fall into this snare, granting too much power to one advisor, too much authority to one soldier, too much wealth to one financier. Then, when the noose tightens, the ruler finds that the throne he sits upon belongs not to him but to those who propped it up. Understand this truth: dependence breeds betrayal. A ruler must never depend upon one man for what many can provide. Divide their tasks, fragment their power, rotate their roles. In this way, no one snake may grow too fat from your reliance, and all will fear being replaced. The one who cannot be replaced is the one who holds the dagger. Fear, properly managed, is the torch that illuminates the unseen. For though men may hide their hearts, they cannot fully hide their trembling. A subject who smiles yet shivers at your gaze is a loyal subject, for fear holds his tongue. But a subject who grows too comfortable, too at ease, too fearless in your presence is already plotting. Comfort breeds contempt, and contempt breeds treachery. This is why the prince must never let himself be treated as equal. Familiarity is poison, distance preserves respect. Let them kiss your hand, let them bow their heads, let them sweat in your silence, then you will know they are still contained. The snake reveals itself when fear evaporates, when men begin to treat your authority as something negotiable, when laughter grows too free at your expense. Watch for this, for it is the first rattle of venom before the strike. The cleverest snakes use religion, morality, and tradition as their disguise. They speak of virtue, of justice, of the will of the people, of divine will, yet behind these noble words lies ambition cloaked in holiness. Men are more easily deceived by sacred masks than by gold, for gold declares itself plainly, while piety seduces with sanctity. A priest who whispers too much about justice may already be counting the crown in his prayers. A minister who invokes the good of the people is already plotting how to use those same people as a weapon against you. Do not be distracted by their words. Judge them only by results. If their virtue enriches them, if their morality strengthens them more than it strengthens you, then their piety is a dagger veiled in scripture. It is not God they serve, it is themselves, and you are but the obstacle. Cruelty, when used rightly, is a remedy, not a disease. To cut away betrayal, one must act swiftly, decisively, and without hesitation. The prince who hesitates when treachery is suspected will find himself dead before he finds his proof. Better to cut off a hand at the first sign of theft than to wait until the whole body is rotted. Let men fear that suspicion alone may end them, for this fear will keep them loyal. Use others to enact this cruelty, then dispose of them, so the stain of blood does not remain on your hands. The people will believe you merciful even as your enemies vanish. This is how a ruler walks unseen among snakes, by killing quickly, yet appearing reluctant, by punishing severely, yet cloaking it in justice. Mercy without strength is weakness, but cruelty veiled in righteousness is the very architecture of power. Do not think hatred alone makes the snake dangerous. Envy is the sharper poison. Hatred may strike you openly, but envy strikes in silence, gnaws at the heart, and festers until it moves the hand. A rival who hates you will march with banners. A rival who envies you will smile as he sows whispers. It is envy that corrupts allies, that turns brothers into assassins, that makes ministers undermine their own prince. Guard yourself not only against the enemy's hatred, but against the friend's envy. How? By appearing generous without giving too much, by elevating men but never above yourself, by ensuring that the glory of every deed returns to you. Let others win battles, but let it always be said they fought under your name. Men will envy power they believe they can steal. They will respect power they believe can never be theirs. In this world of deceit, the true prince becomes both actor and judge. He performs virtue for the crowd while practicing ruthlessness in private. He praises loyalty in public while expecting betrayal in silence. He listens to counsel with patience while doubting every word. He smiles as he calculates. He rewards as he prepares punishment. He embraces as he measures the cost of treachery. This is the vigilance that keeps the crown upon his head. The snake you never see is always near, always waiting, always whispering in shadows, but the ruler who studies men as they are, not as they pretend to be, will step on it before it coils. For in politics, as in nature, survival belongs not to the most noble, but to the most cunning. The greatest illusion a ruler can suffer is to believe that men love him for his own sake. No, they love what he provides, they love what he protects, they love the shadow of his power under which they feel safe. Strip these things away, and you will discover that affection vanishes faster than morning mist. And in this vacuum of love grows the most venomous of serpents, the one who once bowed, who once swore undying loyalty, who once called you master. When his appetite is no longer fed, when his inheritance is threatened, when his vanity is bruised, he becomes the snake. Understand this law: the man who kneels to you today will strike you tomorrow if you cease to be useful. To see the snake before it strikes, you must always ask, who would benefit if my power vanished? Who waits in silence for the cracks to appear? The one who prospers from your ruin is already rehearsing his treachery. Observe men not when they are restrained, but when they are indulged. Power reveals their nature far more than poverty. A poor man may seem loyal because he has no strength to betray, but enrich him, elevate him, and you will see his true form. Gratitude is a frail chain. Ambition is a blade that cuts it without hesitation. How many princes have been undone by the very men they raised to honor? They thought they were creating allies, but instead they were feeding serpents who grew fat upon their generosity. The wise ruler does not fatten one man too greatly, for envy and arrogance grow together. Divide your gifts, scatter them among many, so none can imagine himself equal to you. For the man who begins to believe he is almost your peer is already plotting to replace you. The snake coils not in the mud, but at your table, where it tastes the sweetness of power and hungers for the whole feast. Fear must be woven carefully, for too little, and men forget you, too much, and they conspire against you. The art is to strike enough terror that they dare not betray, yet leave enough hope that they prefer obedience to rebellion. Hatred is fatal, but fear mixed with respect is security. To achieve this, cruelty must be used like a scalpel, not a hammer. A few decisive punishments terrify more than endless brutality, because they linger in memory like fire etched into stone. But cruelty unending breeds despair, and despair breeds plots. Better to kill once and cleanly than to wound 1,000 times. When you punish, let it be final, let it be public, let it be instructive. In such acts, you cut off the snake's head before others learn to imitate its venom. Men will forgive you for killing an enemy, but never for letting him live long enough to become their master. The snake thrives in silence, in whispers, in shadows where men exchange glances heavier than words. Thus the prince must control not only actions but appearances, not only bodies but minds. Control what is seen, and you control what is believed. Propaganda, ceremony, ritual, these are the armor against the unseen serpent. Let the people see you as virtuous, just, merciful, devout, even while you sharpen your dagger in private. Appearances deceive men more than reality ever could, and by mastering appearances, you blind them to the coils at their feet. The snake may plot, but if the people see you as the very embodiment of justice and strength, they will crush it before it rises. Therefore, spend lavishly on your image, invest in your reputation, cultivate the myth of your indispensability. For a prince who appears divine is harder to betray, because betrayal of him looks like betrayal of God himself. Yet even the strongest myths cannot protect a careless ruler from the slow poison of familiarity. Men grow bold when they think they understand you, when they believe they can predict your moods, when they imagine you too human. Mystery preserves fear, and fear preserves authority. Do not reveal too much of yourself, for what is familiar invites contempt. Keep men guessing, keep them uncertain, keep them dependent on your next move. The snake coils most dangerously around rulers who grow predictable. Once a man knows where you will step, he lays his trap there. Therefore, vary your habits, disguise your intentions, speak less than you know, promise more than you give. The prince who becomes a creature of routine becomes a prince already ensnared. Secrecy is armor, unpredictability is a weapon. The snake cannot strike what it cannot see, and it cannot see through a fog of uncertainty. There is a truth men will not admit, but the wise must accept. Loyalty is not born from virtue, but from fear, gain, or necessity. Men are loyal when it costs them nothing, but the moment loyalty requires sacrifice, they recoil. This is why rulers who rely on love are destroyed, for love is a currency that evaporates in crisis. A man may profess affection endlessly, but when the fire rises, it is his purse, his skin, his ambition he will protect, not you. Fear endures where love fails, because fear speaks to the instinct of survival, and survival outweighs sentiment. Thus, if you would guard against the unseen snake, anchor loyalty not in words of love, but in chains of necessity. Make men need you more than they resent you. Make them fear losing you more than they desire your fall. For when loyalty is tied to survival, betrayal becomes suicide, and few serpents dare bite when the bite kills them first. Every throne is surrounded not by courtiers, but by snakes. Some whisper flatteries, some profess devotion, some present themselves as indispensable advisors. But the prince who endures is the one who looks beyond the mask, who judges not by words but by interests, not by appearances but by consequences. The snake you never see is always there, waiting in the silence between your breaths, rehearsing its strike in the privacy of ambition. Yet by dividing power, by controlling appearances, by enforcing fear tempered with mercy, by mastering secrecy, you may tread upon its head before its venom finds your veins. The game of survival is not about trust but about vigilance. For men are not angels, they are wolves and foxes cloaked in silk, serpents smiling at your banquet. Only the ruler who accepts this, who prepares for betrayal as if it were certain, will live to see another dawn upon his throne. The serpent is clever because it waits. Patience is its most perfect weapon. While the lion roars and charges, the snake coils silently in the grass, watching, calculating, allowing its prey to walk closer, step by step, until the strike is certain. So too does the hidden enemy bide his time. He does not confront you in anger, for anger reveals intention. He does not challenge you in haste, for haste exposes weakness. Instead, he smiles, he nods, he serves, he watches, and he waits. He knows that time itself is his ally, for the longer he hides, the more certain his strike becomes. The ruler who survives is not the one who fears noise and fury, but the one who suspects silence. The dagger most dangerous is not the one waved before your eyes, but the one sheathed at your back, carried by a hand that has touched yours 1,000 times in feigned loyalty. To counter patience, the prince must master suspicion. But suspicion must not become madness, for madness destroys trust entirely and drives even the loyal into betrayal. It must be sharp, disciplined, and cold. An instrument of calculation, not paranoia. The ruler must watch how men react in moments of crisis, how their eyes shift when wealth is mentioned, how their silence lingers when power changes hands. The snake often betrays itself not through words but through restraint, through what it chooses not to say, through the smile that lasts too long, through the agreement that comes too easily. The prince who sees these small fractures will know the serpent before it shows its fangs. But suspicion must be hidden. Once men know you doubt them, they begin to act against you. A ruler's suspicion must be like the serpent's venom itself, concealed until the strike, lethal only when released. There are snakes that whisper in the courts of princes, and there are snakes that whisper in the streets. Both are equally dangerous. The courtier plots with ink and word, weaving webs of intrigue that smother the throne. The commoner plots with rumor and grievance, feeding fires that spread unseen until they engulf the palace walls. The prince must guard against both, for neglecting either allows poison to seep into the body politic. To contain the courtier, keep him divided and dependent. To contain the masses, control their perceptions and their needs. Men who are fed do not rebel. Men who are deceived by illusions do not question. Men who are terrified by swift examples of punishment do not dare whisper treason. Betrayal can be crushed before it is born if the roots of hunger, envy, and ambition are severed with a strong hand. Better to uproot weeds early than to fight the forest later. A ruler's generosity is a double-edged sword. Give too much, and men grow bold, ungrateful, and entitled. Give too little, and men grow restless, envious, and resentful. The snake hides in both excess and deficiency. Therefore, generosity must be used as a weapon, never as indulgence. Give when it strengthens loyalty. Give when it binds men to you by necessity. Give when it makes them dependent on your continued favor. But never give so much that they can stand without you, for a man who no longer needs your hand will use his own against you. The clever prince gives just enough to inspire hope, but not enough to grant independence. In this way, generosity becomes a leash, a velvet chain that seems like kindness but is truly control. The snake will bite when it is free. Never let it taste freedom. The prince must also understand that betrayal often comes clothed in justice. How many rulers have been overthrown by conspirators who claim to act in the name of the people, the law, or morality? Justice is the noblest mask for treachery, for men rally to it without question. A traitor who says, "I act for myself," gains few followers. But a traitor who says, "I act for the people," gains an army. This is why rulers must own the narrative of justice. They must appear always to act for the greater good, even when their actions are ruthless. They must punish not as tyrants but as guardians of order. They must kill not as butchers but as surgeons, removing corruption. If you do not control the banner of justice, your enemies will seize it, and with it they will cloak their betrayal in righteousness. Appearances rule men, and justice is the strongest appearance of all. The snake you never see often slithers among those you least suspect. Family, allies, companions of childhood. For it is from familiarity that men gain courage to betray. A stranger may envy you, but he fears you. A brother envies you and feels he deserves your crown. History is filled with rulers undone not by foreign armies but by kin. Brothers poisoning brothers, sons conspiring against fathers, ministers betraying their masters whom they once called friend. The closer the bond, the sharper the dagger. Therefore, the prince must never allow sentiment to blind him. Affection is not armor, it is the crack through which venom enters. Treat every man as a potential rival, even those who share your blood. Trust must never be unconditional, for unconditional trust is the throne's most fatal weakness. In the end, betrayal is not an exception in politics, it is the rule. Men betray because it is easier than remaining loyal, because it promises gain with less risk, because human nature is governed by selfishness, envy, and fear. The wise prince expects betrayal as surely as he expects the sun to rise. And because he expects it, he prepares for it. He divides his court, he controls appearances, he enforces fear, he manipulates devotion, he punishes swiftly, and he watches constantly. This vigilance does not destroy trust, It makes trust irrelevant, for the prince who prepares for treachery cannot be undone by it. The snake will always be near, always watching, always waiting, but the ruler who sharpens his vision, who hardens his heart, who tempers his mercy with cruelty, will tread upon serpents and remain unbitten. Survival does not belong to the trusting, it belongs to the calculating. The serpent does not always strike with violence. Often it strikes with counsel. Advice is the most subtle venom, for words enter the ear without resistance, lodge in the mind, and direct the hand as if by your own will. Many princes have been undone, not by armies or assassins, but by advisors who spoke softly, appealing to vanity, to compassion, to fear, until the ruler acted against his own interest, believing it was wisdom. Beware the man who insists too eagerly that he knows what is best for you. Beware the one who rushes to solve every problem before you even name it. He does not serve you, he serves himself. The snake reveals itself in the voice that flatters too much, agrees too quickly, and presents solutions that make him indispensable. He who makes himself essential becomes your master, and in time he becomes the serpent that devours the throne itself. Trust, if it must exist, must be broken into fragments. Give no man the whole picture of your design, for he who holds the whole can wield it against you. Divide counsel, scatter knowledge. Let each man believe he knows more than he does. In this way, no serpent can grow fangs sharp enough to pierce you. Let one minister manage wealth, another control armies, another handle laws. Never let one hand grasp all three. When power is divided, ambition starves. When power is concentrated, ambition fattens and poisons. The ruler who gathers power in his own hand while dispersing it in fragments to others ensures that betrayal remains incomplete. A snake with half a body cannot strike, and a conspirator with half the plan cannot succeed. But understand this, cruelty, when well used, is not a defect, but a necessity. A single decisive act of severity prevents 1,000 betrayals. When the snake is revealed, cut its head cleanly and without hesitation. Delay is fatal. A ruler who hesitates invites conspirators to multiply like vermin. Once a man is suspected and his guilt apparent, do not wait for proof acceptable to the crowd. Proof is the invention of philosophers. Necessity is the law of princes. Better to kill one innocent who seemed dangerous than to spare one guilty who proves fatal. Mercy toward traitors is cruelty toward yourself, and cruelty toward yourself is the surest road to ruin. Yet every act of punishment must wear the mask of justice. Kill swiftly, then proclaim mercy. Destroy a man, then speak of forgiveness. In this way, the people praise your justice even as your enemies lie in the earth. The masses themselves are serpents in their own way, sluggish, slow to move, easily distracted, yet capable of sudden fury when stirred. They do not think, they do not reason, they react. Bread soothes them, fear silences them, spectacle blinds them. A wise prince treats the people not as equals, but as a force of nature to be managed. Feed them when they hunger, terrify them when they murmur, amuse them when they grow restless. The crowd that cheers you today will burn your palace tomorrow if hunger gnaws at them. Therefore, ensure their bellies are full, their eyes are deceived, and their fears are constant. Let them believe they are free, but remind them always that your hand controls their chains. The snake that grows among the people is rebellion, and rebellion must be strangled in the cradle, never allowed to grow teeth. Observe too that the serpent's greatest ally is memory. Men forgive many things, but they do not forgive the loss of wealth or honor. A father's death may be forgotten, but an insult lingers until it festers into vengeance. For this reason, a ruler must never injure a man unless he is prepared to destroy him entirely. Half measures breed revenge, complete destruction breeds silence. If you wound a man but leave him standing, you have planted a serpent that will one day coil around you. But if you crush him utterly, there is no enemy left to strike. This is why great princes destroy conspiracies with overwhelming force, making examples so severe that others dare not imagine betrayal. Terror in one moment creates peace for years. Mercy in the wrong moment breeds serpents for generations. Even allies must be regarded as potential betrayers, for alliances are marriages of necessity, not of love. They endure only as long as both sides benefit. The moment your strength falters, your ally becomes your enemy, cloaking his betrayal in excuses of survival. Nations, families, and friends alike act from the same principle. Men are loyal only when it suits them. Therefore, build alliances that make others more dependent on you than you are on them. make their wealth tied to yours, their armies reliant upon your command, their honor bound to your favor. In this way, even if they dream of betrayal, they will choke upon its cost. Alliances must be forged as chains, not handshakes, for a handshake can be withdrawn, but a chain binds until it breaks, and by then you will have crushed the one who dared to test its strength. The prince must never forget that appearances are worth more than reality. Men do not see truth, they see the mask you present. A ruler who appears merciful, just, and devout will be praised even when he is ruthless, cunning, and irreligious. And while he is praised, conspiracies wither, for men hesitate to strike what they believe divine. The snake that slithers beneath the throne cannot persuade the masses, if the masses worship the throne itself. So invest in your appearance more than in your virtue. Speak of justice while you plot cruelty. Display piety while you mock the heavens in silence. Proclaim mercy while you prepare executions. Men are content with illusions. Give them illusions that keep you safe. Reality belongs to you. Appearance belongs to them. Guard the first with ruthlessness. Gift them the second with theater, and the snake will remain unseen until you crush it beneath your heel. The serpent adapts to survive. When fear grips a court, it coils in silence. When mercy spreads, it slithers boldly. When order is firm, it burrows deep. When chaos reigns, it strikes in the open. The greatest danger for a ruler is to believe that betrayal looks the same in all times, for it does not. It changes its skin as often as necessity demands. One year, treachery hides in a minister's whispers. The next, it thrives in the people's hunger. The next, it lurks in the arrogance of generals returning from victories. If you expect only one form, you will be caught by another. Therefore, the wise prince learns not to search for a single snake, but to assume that many exist in different shapes, always shifting, always waiting. To prepare against this, one must live in readiness, like a soldier in a fortress that never sleeps, where every shadow may hide a coil, every silence may contain venom. Consider the army, which holds in its hands both the defense of the state and the weapon of rebellion. Generals are the most dangerous of serpents, for they command not words but men, not whispers but swords. They win victories in your name, but those victories crown their heads with laurel. Soldiers begin to cheer their general louder than their prince, and in that cheer is the birth of conspiracy. History is filled with rulers who trusted too deeply in the loyalty of their captains, only to be overthrown by the very armies they had paid and supplied. The solution is clear: divide command, rotate authority, and remind generals that their honor exists only because it is granted by the throne. Let them win battles, but let their glory be credited to you. Reward them lavishly when they are loyal, but keep them weak enough that they cannot defy you. For an army loyal to its general and not its ruler is a serpent with 1,000 fangs, and its bite is always fatal. Money too conceals its serpents, for wealth is both a shield and a dagger. Those who control the purse often believe themselves the masters of those who wear the crown. Bankers, merchants, financiers, they fatten themselves on your gold, then whisper to one another that the ruler cannot survive without their coin. This illusion breeds treachery. A prince must never allow those who handle his wealth to become stronger than those who wield his swords. The state must control money as it controls armies. Taxes, debts, subsidies, gifts, these must remain in the hand of the throne, or else the serpent of finance will choke the state into submission. Yet here too appearances matter. Let merchants believe they profit. Let bankers think themselves honored. Let the rich believe they are indispensable. Behind this mask, bleed them slowly, enrich the state at their expense, and ensure that wealth flows through your hands like blood through the heart. For if another becomes the heart, he becomes the prince, and the snake has already swallowed the crown. Religion, too, is a sheath for serpents. Priests and prophets cloak themselves in holiness, but often they are nothing more than men of ambition. They speak of God while dreaming of power. They preach of virtue while plotting influence. And because men are weak and superstitious, they follow such figures blindly, believing themselves loyal to heaven, while truly being loyal to a man. This is the most dangerous serpent, because its fangs are hidden behind devotion. A ruler cannot always crush it with violence, for martyrdom strengthens the legend. Instead, he must tame it, manipulate it, bend it to his use. Appear devout, honor the rituals, fund the temples, but always ensure that the priest serves the prince, not the other way around. Let religion sanctify your rule so thoroughly that to rebel against you is to rebel against God. In this way you turn the serpent's venom into your own weapon, binding men not only with fear of you but with fear of eternity. Do not underestimate the serpent born of leisure. When a court grows decadent, when luxury softens discipline, when men drown in comfort, betrayal festers in idleness. A man who has too much time begins to imagine conspiracies, to dream of power, to resent his dependency. Therefore, idleness must be destroyed. Keep your court busy, keep your ministers engaged, keep your nobles competing for favor, make them struggle for your approval, and they will have no strength left to conspire against you. Men occupied with ambition have no time for treachery, and men worn with labor have no energy for rebellion. Leisure breeds snakes, necessity crushes them. The serpent often chooses to wear the face of loyalty until the very end. Betrayal is most effective when it is least suspected. That is why conspirators embrace you before they strike, why they flatter you before they poison, why they kiss your hand before they thrust the dagger. To survive, a ruler must learn to distrust the very moment of highest devotion. When praise grows too loud, when affection grows too deep, when loyalty is sworn too often, sharpen your vigilance, for the louder the oath, the closer the betrayal. This is why wise princes keep their inner circle small, their trust divided, and their suspicion constant. Betrayal is not a storm that announces itself, it is the calm before it. The fate of princes who fail to see the unseen serpent is always the same: ruin. Some are dethroned, some exiled, some murdered in their own beds. Their mistake is not that they faced enemies, for every ruler has enemies. Their mistake is that they believed loyalty stronger than ambition, love stronger than fear, friendship stronger than necessity. Such beliefs are luxuries that only private men may afford. For rulers, sentiment is poison. The throne is not guarded by affection, it is guarded by vigilance, cruelty and cunning. The serpent will always exist. The only question is whether you will see it in time, and whether you will have the courage to crush it when it shows its head. The serpent thrives most dangerously when it convinces you it does not exist. When the court is filled with harmony, when the people cheer without complaint, when ministers appear obedient and generals appear loyal, that is when the ruler must be most vigilant. For perfect silence is unnatural. Men are never so content that they abandon envy, ambition, or resentment. If no voices oppose you, it is not because opposition is gone, it is because it is hidden. The conspiracy that makes no noise is already strong, for men who conspire openly are weak. A ruler who mistakes quiet for loyalty is like a man who mistakes still waters for shallow ones. He steps forward in confidence and is swallowed whole. Understand this law: it is when men praise you most loudly that they prepare to strike most swiftly. The hidden snake coils in applause, waiting until you have closed your eyes in satisfaction to sink its fangs. The surest way to unmask treachery is to tempt it. Men who dream of betrayal cannot resist opportunities to reveal themselves. Offer them the chance to grow too rich, too honored, too independent, and watch how they seize it. In their eagerness, they expose the ambition they had long concealed. Then, when the serpent shows its tongue, cut it out without hesitation. A prince does not merely wait for snakes to reveal themselves. He lures them into the open. Conspirators must be provoked, tested, and watched. Assign them tasks that stretch their loyalty. Give them honors that arouse envy in others. Force them to make choices where betrayal is easier than obedience. In such trials, the true nature of men is uncovered. If they betray small trusts, they will betray great ones. Kill them at once. If they endure without defect, keep them useful but never secure. A serpent deprived of fangs is still a serpent, and one must never forget its nature. Appearances are the stage upon which power performs, and serpents know this well. The cleverest traitors do not strike with daggers, they strike with reputation. They smear your name in whispers. They plant doubts in the minds of allies. They gnaw at the foundation of your image until the people see you not as protector but as oppressor. A dagger kills the body, but defamation kills the throne. Thus, a ruler must guard his reputation more fiercely than his walls. He must drown whispers in spectacle, silence rumors in decisive displays, bury doubt beneath ceremonies of strength. It is not enough to be powerful. You must appear untouchable. The people will not follow a prince they believe weakened, and conspirators will not strike at one who looks invincible. The snake that spreads slander is more dangerous than the one that sharpens steel, for venom in the mind is deadlier than venom in the blood. The greatest enemy of rulers is often their own desire to be loved. Men crave affection, and princes crave it most of all, for they are surrounded by isolation. But the desire to be loved blinds the eye to betrayal. When you hunger for loyalty, you accept false loyalty. When you yearn for devotion, you invite flattery. And when you believe yourself loved, you have already opened the gate for the serpent to enter. Better to be feared than loved, for fear can be measured, but love cannot. Love is a fickle fire. It burns brightly when fed and dies when starved. Fear is stone. It remains so long as the hand is strong. Therefore, the ruler who seeks love will be betrayed, but the ruler who secures fear will endure. The serpent slithers into hearts where love blinds the eye. Fear keeps the eye sharp and the hand ready. History proves again and again that betrayal rarely comes from enemies. It comes from allies, family, and friends. Caesar was not killed by foreign invaders, but by men who had dined at his table, who had walked at his side, who had sworn loyalty in the Senate. Princes fall not because their foes are strong, but because their friends are serpents. You must never forget that familiarity breeds contempt, and contempt breeds treachery. A brother feels entitled to your crown. A minister feels entitled to your gratitude. A general feels entitled to your obedience. Entitlement is the seed of betrayal. Therefore, give men less than they think they deserve. Keep them grasping, keep them hungry. A man who feels satisfied is a man who believes himself equal, and an equal is always a rival. The serpent is born not in poverty but in abundance, not in distance but in closeness. Keep all men beneath you, and no man will dare to rise. The prince who survives is the prince who anticipates betrayal, as he anticipates the seasons. Just as winter always follows autumn, betrayal always follows success. When you have triumphed, when your enemies lie crushed, when your people cheer your name, that is when the seeds of treachery are sown. For victory breeds envy, and envy breeds serpents. Do not relax after triumph. Tighten your vigilance, distribute rewards carefully, punish envy decisively, and remind all men that your hand is still iron even in celebration. A ruler who relaxes in peace is destroyed faster than one who falters in war. For wars strengthen vigilance, but peace dulls it, and dullness is the serpent's most faithful ally. A throne is not secured by trust, but by fear, manipulation, and ruthless perception. Snakes will always exist. The only question is whether they strike unseen or are crushed in their hiding. A ruler who accepts this, who prepares for it, who uses cruelty when necessary and deception when unavoidable, will not only survive, but thrive. He will make serpents devour each other, turning their envy into his shield, their fear into his weapon, their loyalty into his leash. The throne is not a seat of peace, but a nest of serpents. He who dares to sit upon it must tread upon snakes without hesitation, without remorse, without illusion, for the one who hesitates becomes prey, and the serpent never hesitates. The serpent is never more dangerous than when it wears the mask of necessity. Men will betray not because they hate you, but because they convince themselves they must. They whisper that the state will fall without their hand, that the people cry out for their guidance, that destiny itself demands their rise. Such justifications are venom poured into the mind until treachery appears as duty. This is why betrayal often comes clothed not in selfishness but in virtue. The traitor convinces himself he acts not for gain but for the greater good. And because men admire noble masks, the crowd is quick to follow him. The serpent you never see is the one who convinces others that his strike is salvation. To guard against this, the ruler must seize the language of necessity for himself. Let every act be wrapped in the claim of duty. Let every cruelty wear the face of protection. Let every conquest be declared justice. For if you do not hold necessity, your enemies will seize it, and with it they will sanctify betrayal. Do not think only men of power conspire. The weak too are serpents in their own fashion. Servants, clerks, guards. Those closest to the prince in daily life often hold the sharpest daggers, for they live in his chambers, they hear his secrets, they know his habits. A cupbearer can poison more easily than an army can besiege. A servant can smother where generals cannot strike. This is why a ruler must never treat the humble as harmless. The lower a man kneels, the more dangerous his resentment may become. Watch the eyes of those who serve you daily. If they linger too long, if they burn with envy at what they cannot reach, know that venom is forming there. Rotate servants often, keep them watched, and never let them feel invisible. For an invisible man is a dangerous man, and the snake most deadly is the one who feels unseen. The serpent thrives upon secrecy, and so the prince must master secrecy himself. Reveal nothing of your true thoughts. For the moment a man knows your heart, he can use it against you. Let your words be masks, your promises veils, your gestures riddles. Keep men uncertain whether you love or despise, whether you trust or doubt, whether you plan war or peace. Uncertainty paralyzes ambition, for no man strikes when he cannot predict your response. The snake waits for patterns. Deny him patterns. Vary your routines. Change your alliances. Speak less than you know. Promise more than you deliver. A ruler who is predictable invites traps. A ruler who is unfathomable inspires fear. To become unreadable is to become untouchable. The serpent cannot strike what it cannot see, and when it coils in confusion, you may crush it at leisure. Understand also that serpents multiply in shadows of corruption. When men grow fat upon stolen wealth, when officials bleed the people dry, when bribery becomes the air of governance, betrayal becomes the state's very heartbeat. For in corruption, men learn that loyalty is for sale, that honor is a coin to be exchanged, that survival belongs not to the virtuous but to the cunning. If a prince tolerates corruption, he breeds serpents by the thousands, and soon even his closest allies become merchants of treachery. To prevent this, corruption must be punished with cruelty, but selectively. Do not purge all at once, for corruption is useful when it serves you. Let small thieves be punished publicly, but let great thieves prosper under your protection if they remain loyal. In this way, you remind the people that justice exists, while ensuring the most powerful serpents stay bound to your leash. Use corruption as a chain, not as a disease. Master it, do not destroy it. Consider envy again, for it is the root of almost every dagger. When a man sees another exalted, he feels robbed, even if nothing was taken from him. Envy makes brothers enemies, allies, rivals, servants conspirators. It is silent, invisible, corrosive, and relentless. To guard against it, the prince must distribute rewards carefully, granting enough to inspire hope, but never enough to breed arrogance. Elevate one man, and you must humble another. Exalt one faction, and you must weaken its rival. Let all believe they are rising under your gaze, yet ensure none rise above your hand. Envy cannot be killed, but it can be managed, like fire controlled by a hearth. Leave it unchecked, and it becomes a blaze that consumes the throne. Channel it wisely, and it becomes a light that illuminates your power. The serpent also feeds upon weakness, and nothing breeds weakness like hesitation. When betrayal is suspected, when conspiracy is whispered, when envy smolders, the prince must act swiftly. Delay grants serpents time to coil. To wait for certainty is to wait for ruin, for by the time proof is undeniable, the venom has already been delivered. Strike early, strike decisively, and strike in a way that deters others from imitation. Cruelty in the right moment is mercy to the throne, and mercy in the wrong moment is cruelty to yourself. A ruler cannot afford the luxury of forgiveness when his survival is at stake. Kill one serpent publicly, and 1,000 others retreat into silence. Spare one serpent publicly, and 1,000 others grow bold. In matters of betrayal, doubt is enough evidence. Hesitation is enough guilt. Act before the snake does, and you will outlive them all. In the end, a throne is never truly secure, for serpents gather endlessly, drawn by power as flies to honey. But a ruler who understands men, who expects betrayal as certain as death, who wields fear with calculation and cruelty with justice, who masks ruthlessness with virtue and cloaks necessity in piety, will never be undone by the unseen serpent. He will make serpents devour each other, pit envy against envy, ambition against ambition, until the field is littered not with his allies but with his victims. The ruler who lives long is not the ruler who trusted, but the ruler who doubted, not the ruler who forgave, but the ruler who punished, not the ruler who hoped, but the ruler who calculated. For the serpent you never see is always there, and only the prince who never sleeps, who never softens, who never surrenders to illusion, will reign unbitten while others rot. The serpent is cunning enough to strike not only through individuals, but through factions. Groups of men bound by common cause, shared envy, or mutual resentment become more dangerous than any single conspirator. A lone man may hesitate, but a faction convinces itself of safety in numbers. They whisper together, they reassure one another, they bind their treachery with oaths, and soon what was once a thought in the shadows becomes a plan in the open. This is why wise rulers never allow factions to grow strong. Divide them, set them against each other, make them compete for favor, let them quarrel over scraps while you feast at the center. A prince who unites his rivals against himself has already invited his own downfall, for the serpent with many heads is hardest to kill. Better to make each man believe his neighbor is the greater enemy than to allow them to imagine you as their common foe. The serpent also thrives on forgiveness that comes too quickly. Men who escape punishment once begin to believe they can escape it again. A spared traitor becomes a teacher of treachery, for he shows others that rebellion does not always end in ruin. Nothing corrupts loyalty faster than the sight of betrayal unpunished. If a man conspires and is caught, kill him or crush him so entirely that no one dares to imitate him. Mercy can be offered to the harmless, but to those who plot against the throne, mercy is suicide. Yet every punishment must be cloaked in justice. Do not say, "I kill because I fear betrayal." Say, "I kill because he betrayed the people." Men will endure cruelty so long as it seems righteous, but they will rebel against cruelty that seems selfish. The wise prince acts with blood on his hands but righteousness on his lips, so that fear and reverence grow together. It must be remembered that serpents live not only in the court or among allies, but also in the people themselves. The crowd is like a vast field, fertile, restless, and always waiting to be seeded. A whisper can spread faster among the masses than fire through dry grass. When the people grow hungry, when their hopes decay, when their envy swells, they become a serpent larger than any individual plot. The ruler must therefore keep them in check through balance. Enough bread to satisfy, enough spectacle to distract, enough fear to silence. The people must believe their fortunes rise with yours, for if they see your fortune as the cause of their misery, they will rise against you with a venom no sword can contain. Conspiracies within the court are sharp daggers, but the masses enraged are a flood, drowning everything in their path. The wise prince does not wait for floodwaters, he builds the dam long before the storm. Beware too of serpents born from gratitude. Nothing is more fleeting than a favor remembered. A man you have saved, enriched, or exalted will often betray you first, for he feels the weight of your generosity as a chain upon his pride. He cannot repay you, and so he resents you. Gratitude turns to bitterness, and bitterness turns to poison. This is why the most loyal servant is not the one you rescued, but the one who depends upon you still. Better to grant small favors continually, which keep men bound to your hand, than to grant one great favor that makes them feel forever indebted. The serpent strikes not because you wronged him, but because you made him feel powerless in the face of your gift. Do not expect loyalty from gratitude, expect betrayal, for men hate most those to whom they owe most. The serpent will often attempt to use your own virtues against you. If you are known for mercy, it will beg for it. If you are known for justice, it will cloak itself in false evidence. If you are known for piety, it will speak the language of devotion. In this way, betrayal bends the tools of virtue until they become instruments of ruin. This is why a ruler must never be consistent in his virtues. Be merciful at times, ruthless at others. Be just on one day, cruel on the next. Be pious in public, cynical in private. Men who cannot predict you cannot manipulate you. If they believe you will always forgive, they will betray with confidence. If they believe you will always punish, they will conspire in desperation. But if they cannot guess your response, they will remain paralyzed, and the serpent will strangle itself in its uncertainty. Consider how serpents move within families. Blood ties are the most deceptive bonds, for men believe blood secures loyalty when in truth it breeds rivalry. A brother envies a brother more than a stranger ever could, for he sees in him the reflection of what he lacks. A son envies a father because the crown sits upon the head he wishes to replace. A cousin envies another because lineage makes them near equals. The closer the kinship, the sharper the envy. Many rulers trust family more than allies, and in doing so, they place the dagger directly against their own throat. The prudent prince trusts no man simply because of blood. He weighs family as he weighs strangers, by utility, by fear, by dependence. For kinship without dependence is rivalry, and rivalry is the serpent's egg. Every act of survival is a test of sight. The prince must see where others are blind, suspect where others are complacent, and act where others would hesitate. For betrayal is the constant element of power. The crown itself is not a jewel but a target, and every man near it dreams of possessing it. The serpent you never see is always watching, always waiting, always whispering. But a ruler who calculates with cruelty, who wields fear with art, who manipulates appearances with mastery, will not only survive treachery, but turn it into his weapon. He will make serpents kill each other, betray each other, devour each other, until only he remains. And when all rivals lie dead or disgraced, the prince will stand not because he trusted, but because he doubted, not because he forgave, but because he punished, not because he hoped, but because he acted. The serpent is eternal, for human nature does not change. Men are selfish, fearful, ambitious, and envious, and these vices do not vanish with time. They merely wear new disguises. Today they cloak themselves in friendship, tomorrow in justice, the next day in devotion to the people or to God. But always beneath the mask lies the same hunger, the desire to rise at your expense. A ruler who forgets this truth has already surrendered his crown. Do not expect loyalty beyond necessity. Do not expect love beyond interest. Do not expect faith beyond fear. The wise prince assumes that betrayal is always in motion, like a river flowing unseen beneath the earth, ready to burst forth when the ground cracks. To live is to live surrounded by serpents. To reign is to reign above their coils, forever pressing them down beneath your heel. The art of survival is not the absence of betrayal, but the mastery of it. The ruler who endures does not eliminate serpents, he uses them. He sets one rival against another, one minister against his peer, one faction against its opposite, until their venom consumes them instead of him. He rewards envy with competition, ambition with impossible promises, treachery with opportunities that expose the traitor before he strikes. In this way, betrayal becomes not a threat, but a tool. The serpent you never see cannot strike if it is too busy fighting another. Thus, the prince does not simply guard against treachery. He orchestrates it, manipulates it, and bends it to his will. For power is not safety. Power is the ability to make even betrayal serve you. Fear remains the surest defense, but it must always be tempered with calculation. To be feared without being hated is the pinnacle of rule. Hatred breeds conspiracies, but fear mixed with respect secures obedience. The prince who inspires awe in his people appears untouchable, while the prince who inspires hatred appears vulnerable. Therefore, when you must be cruel, be swift and final. When you must be merciful, be measured and public. Let men tremble at your power, yet thank you for your mercy. This balance is the tightrope of every ruler. Tip too far into cruelty, and you will be despised. Tip too far into mercy, and you will be despised as weak. But tread the line with cunning, and no serpent dares to strike. For men do not conspire against the one they fear without hating, nor against the one they respect without loving. It is in this narrow path that survival lies. Reputation is stronger than walls, for walls can be broken, but reputation guards a prince even when he sleeps. The serpent that whispers against a ruler with a great name finds no listeners. The serpent that plots against a ruler who appears divine finds no allies. Therefore, cultivate the illusion of greatness with more care than you cultivate armies. Let the people see you as devout, even if you mock heaven, as just, even if you are ruthless, as merciful, even if you are cruel. Appearances, not reality, command loyalty. Men are blind, they believe what they see, not what is. If you master appearances, you blind the serpent itself, for it cannot convince others to rise against you when all believe you untouchable. Power is preserved not by truth but by illusion, and the prince who understands this wears armor stronger than steel. Even so, vigilance must never rest. The ruler who grows weary of suspicion has already opened his door to ruin. Age does not dull the serpent's bite. If anything, it grows sharper as ambition circles an aging prince. The moment you relax, the moment you imagine that loyalty is secure, the moment you grow sentimental and mistake silence for peace, that is the moment the serpent strikes. Therefore, let suspicion be your constant companion, cruelty your ready servant, deception your daily instrument. Trust sparingly, forgive rarely, forget never. A throne is not inherited, it is seized anew each day. For every sunrise brings new conspiracies, new ambitions, new serpents crawling from the shadows. To reign is to wage an endless war, not against armies but against betrayal itself. And so I tell you this final law: the snake you never see is the one that kills you. To rule is to live in the presence of snakes, to speak with them, to dine with them, to sleep with them in your chambers, and yet to rise each day unbitten. This requires vigilance without pause, cruelty without hesitation, and cunning without shame. Men will betray as surely as the sun will set. Your task is not to prevent it, but to outpace it, outthink it, outstrike it. The prince who does so will not merely survive, he will reign. He will stand as master not because he trusted, but because he doubted, not because he forgave, but because he punished, not because he loved, but because he commanded fear. The crown rests not upon the brow of the virtuous, but upon the brow of the ruthless. And when all serpents lie crushed, when all rivals lie silent, when all whispers are drowned in fear, it will be said of you, "Here is the one who saw the snake before it struck, and lived to reign while others perished." If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you already knows this truth. Betrayal does not come from your enemies. It comes from those closest. The snake you never see is always the one that strikes most surely. And if you forget this, you will be undone. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to live with suspicion as your companion? Are you prepared to accept that loyalty is fragile and only vigilance keeps you alive? If this message touched you, if it made sense, write in the comments, "I will see the snake." Let's see how many here are truly ready to face the hidden venom. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's important, much more than you imagine. See you there.